54?
Yes, 54.
Okay, here we go. In this episode of The Full Nerd, Intel's never forgetting. What the hell are we going to call this? Doesn't make some sense. I saw that Ars headline. It was pretty good. In this episode of The Full Nerd, Intel's memory that never forgets. That makes no sense. Because what kind of memory would
the
forget?
Elephant.
That'd be bad.
Well, I mean, RAM does dump stuff.
I know,
so.
but then it's not really memory now, is it?
These terms predate us, Gordon.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's not really memory. Okay. In this episode of The Full Nerd, Optane's what is it? DC pervasive memory? Oh, man.
Intel's memory breakthrough.
Yeah, Intel's memory breakthrough. Got it. In this episode of The Full Nerd, All right, here we go. In this episode of The Full Nerd, what the hell am I going to say? See, it's Thursday.
Intel's memory.
It's just long.
Just say Intel's memory.
In this episode of The Full Nerd, Intel's new memory finally arrives. And okay. All right, this time it's going to work. This time it's going to work now.
I'm leaving all this in the podcast.
In this episode of The Full Nerd, Intel's Optane memory. That just doesn't deal with that. I can't. New memory.
I think you should just take Brad's suggestion.
All right, in this episode of Full Nerd, Intel's new persistent memory arrives, actively cooled HP headset, which I could use right now, and Computex predictions.
Rusty says 20th time's the charm.
Oh, it's a good thing they can't hear us right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Welcome to The Full Nerd, episode 54. I'm your co-host, Gordon Ung. See, everything is not working right. Everything. Welcome to the episode. Welcome to The Full Nerd, episode 54. This will all be cut out later. I'm your host, Gordon Ung, with co-host Brad Charkis.
Hello.
Elena Yee.
Hi, everybody.
And Adam Patrick Murray will get us away from this horrible, messed up introduction.
Gordon, how excited are you for the NBA Finals starting tonight with your Golden State Warriors?
It's just an honor to be in the finals. That's all I got to say. I mean, 4 years in a row, never been done before. And the NBA has, of course, determined this months ago, and now we have we've now arrived at the decision. The league won it, I guess. So, but
the Celtics JV team almost came through and beat LeBron, but couldn't quite make it.
Are you a Celtics fan, Brad?
I'm in the New England area, so not hardcore, not rabid, but yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, not that I'm into conspiracy theories, but it's last year it was bad with all the sweeps, and it's rather convenient that they both ended up going to 7 games.
But it makes it pretty interesting to watch. I watched both Game 7s.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, no, it was good stuff. I'm happy. We'll, go Warriors. But,
Warriors.
I will say, as a Warriors fan, anything is possible. Everybody's saying the Warriors are going to absolutely win this. They're pretty stupid.
I mean, they've lost it before, so
they have.
They have forgotten. I do think the Warriors will win.
I hope they do.
I have faith they will. But at the same time, yeah, anything can happen. Come on. If, who knows? If there's no interference by the league.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. If the league determines it to be the case.
Yes. Yeah, so we'll find out.
Maybe they'll let LeBron win one last time and he'll retire. I'm just kidding.
I don't know. Yeah, who knows? You don't know. I mean, LeBron is just playing at the next level performance of LeBron James is. I'm a long believer that Michael Jordan will always be the greatest basketball player ever, but the way LeBron has been playing, if he does it, you got to say, if he actually does beat the Warriors this year
single-handedly,
if he carries them on their back and defeats the Warriors against all odds, you could argue, yeah, he's definitely greater than Michael Jordan.
It's a one-man show,
even though he won't have as many rings. All right, we're going to get back to actually technology talk though. Even bigger than both the Cavs and the Warriors facing each other 4 times in a row. Intel's Optane DC pervasive memory. Did I get that right? I don't even know.
Is it pervasive or persistent?
Persistent memory. Yeah, it's persistent, pervasive. I guess persistent.
It's always there.
It's kind of similar. Wait, you're a word person, aren't you? What persistent?
Persistent
pervasive
means like keeping
always
at
there.
It. Pervasive also means just there. It's just there. Okay,
so we could be either. Persistent and it's persistent and pervasive memory. Of course, the big deal is they announced, hey, we got to hear this is basically Optane memory in a DDR4 DIMM right?
Right.
I got to hold one in my hand. I don't know if we can splash it up on it, but
Let's do it.
it looks like a, it looks like a
wrong one.
registered
There
dim
it is.
in a way.
So I have a question.
Gordon's
like for
hand.
the rest of us who haven't been keeping up with this, like what's the advantage of this over, conventional DDR4 RAM?
Well, so the big thing is that, the module, if Adams can flash that up there,
Again, yes.
that is, and I had to hold it in my hand. They actually had art that they gave us, but I wanted to hold it. That is 512 gigs of Optane memory in a DDR4 module. Yes, 512 gigs in a DDR4
Do you know how much
module.
16 gigabytes of DDR4 cost these days?
I was just about to say, is that $2,000 in your hand right there, Gordon?
Probably more than that.
Yeah, I mean, the price of it, we don't know.
I don't think anyone does.
But I mean, we're at this point for us, we're called, client computing, desktop computers, laptops. We can only sort of see in the abstract. It's not going to be here immediately.
Sure.
But the cool thing is, so they take Optane, which as we know is not NAND. It's this next level stuff, 3D Crosspoint that they developed with Micron and Intel jointly developed. And it is memory that never forgets, right? So it's storage. It's storage, but, they've always said since the beginning that this is 1,000 times faster than the NAND at the time when they announced it. So it basically is between what the performance that you can get out of, DRAM and what you can get out of an NAND. So it's really the brain bender for us, because we have lived in this world on the PC forever. You boot up to a hard drive. Well, way back then, you used to boot up to your floppy. I mean, some of us that even go back, you booted up to your tape, right? You booted the tape, then the floppy, to hard drive, and now, of course, we boot the SSDs. One day, you would be able to boot directly to Optane, right? In a memory slot, and honestly, who knows what it'll go into next? But right now, they're putting it into a DDR4 slot. You'll be able to boot into this, and the thing is, you're not even really booting into it, because you're basically turning on your computer and everything was as you left it before. If I sort of see where the winds of computing are going with this.
So this is a hybrid then between conventional RAM and conventional storage?
It is not. So it's not like some kind of weird, caching or everything. And this is just basically Optane in a DIMM slot that you can basically use as storage, or it can also be used to expand RAM, as I understand it. On the data center side, they're using to expand RAM. One really cool thing they did is they had two identical servers. One of them had maybe 192 gigs of RAM. The other one had, they didn't say how much RAM there was, but the other one had 1 terabyte of Optane DIMM, so like 4 of these, right? I'm going to guess a lot less memory. And then they rebooted a database. So I don't remember which database it was. The Optane system restarted that database in 16.9 seconds. And the one with 192 gigs of RAM and NVMe storage, it took 2,100 seconds to restart that database.
Wow.
Because you think about it, because it's right now sort of, we think like, you turn on your computer, you take everything on the hard drive or SSD, take what you need, you put it into memory, right? So it's active, you shut it off, or you put it in standby. At some point with Optane, because it's always hot, it's always there, it never forgets, it doesn't need power, you really never have to sort of reboot or restart.
Wait, are you saying it doesn't
again.
need power? Like you could pull the power plug from the wall and it would
So this is not a RAM disk, right? This is like a NAND. It's like Optane that we've seen already in PCIe and M.2 and even
Wow.
It basically it's storage that used right now we see is used as storage. Optane memory you use as memory. Right, so it can give you basically your system, obviously a server, 1 terabyte of RAM easily, right?
Nice.
So 3D Xpoint and Optane has always been kind of like a mixture of RAM and storage, right? And so the first SSDs that we got were really fast SSDs, and this is kind of, it seems like it's taking it from the other direction.
Yeah, and I'm trying to, of course I can't open, here we go.
Well, real quick, Rusty's asking, Rusty over on YouTube is asking, is the clock speed under wraps? What about CAS latency, stuff like that? How much should they get into it?
I don't think the I don't think CAS latency would apply necessarily. Actual clock speeds of the DIMMs are also not disclosed. Pricing's not disclosed. A lot of things are not disclosed. The only thing they did say, because it was running on basically a Cascade Lake system, so it was a Cascade Lake.
Oh.
So next generation Xeon, right? So next generation Xeon will have support for this, and they're saying it's just standard, DDR4 slot. There's nothing special. It's not like you create a motherboard and you have 4 slots for Optane. This is like you have 4 slots. You put in your Optane memory, and and for servers, there's a lot of re-architecting, and they got into a lot of the long hair stuff that was, obviously it was hard to stay awake for me because not really applying to client, but it's going to take a rethinking of how we treat computing in a lot of ways. This is really a big deal. I know some people are kind of throwing shade at it, but Optane we're stepping through a door, and you're going to remember today as we go through that door, like, wow, it's amazing that we used to boot to, tape drives kind of in a way. I mean, it's going to feel like that, I sort of think, because you're going to take your laptop in 5 years or 10 years, who knows how long it'll take to get to consumers, and you just turn it on. It's just basically always in standby, almost in a way. But in a standby that doesn't use any power. And actually, one of the interesting things that came up were discussions like, well, today, if you have a security problem or you have a problem with an application or from memory leak, you just reboot or you restart it. With Optane, it's just always persistent. It never goes away.
That was my first question.
What do you do, right? They're like, yeah, there's things that have to be addressed. Right?
IT support around the world can no longer say, have you rebooted?
Yeah, I can't reboot. It's an Optane system. Just reboot, sir. Well, you reset your DSL modem. Turn it off for 5 minutes. Oh, okay. Well, how does that help my problem with my computer crashing? I don't know.
I gotta go refill my coffee. That's why.
That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really going to be some next level, brain bending stuff with, where this eventually plays out. I'm guessing. Who knows if we're going to get there? Obviously, nothing's a given, right? Warriors may not win. Probably going to win. Optane, I think, is probably going to go places. Oh, they actually do call it persistent memory, not pervasive.
Well, and actually, our boss, John Phillips, was in the YouTube chat. He's saying persistent equals continuing to exist or endure over a prolonged period, and pervasive is spreading widely throughout an area or a group of people.
Ah, right. Yes. Thank you.
According to John.
So it is so Optane DC persistent memory is what they're calling it. Yeah.
And that's the big difference. I don't think we've said it out loud. Is today's memory basically gets flushed every time you cut off the system.
Right.
That's why persistent is such a big deal.
Well, and does the DC refer to like AC, DC? Oh, okay. I thought it was a power.
No. It's data center. I mean, clearly, the 512 gig Optane DIMM is not going to be in a desktop system in 2 months kind of thing. I don't know. Of course, who knows? Maybe they'll blow us away at Computex. Say, oh, bam, yeah. Because, it will show up in next generation Xeon, the Pearly platform, I think they're calling it, and Cascade Lake. We do know that they take those chips, pick the best of the best, and then they relabel them as Core X. Right?
Nice.
I think it's a really interesting counter, not to get too far into the data center things, to AMD's EPYC processors, because this is going to be exclusive to next-gen Xeon, like you said. So
right,
that could be a big selling point for Intel, their entire platform, not just the cost of the chip itself.
Right. If this is something you're Amazon or you're Google or Facebook and you can only get Optane DC, and it really does make a huge difference in your performance of your databases, then this is going to be a pretty big performance advantage for Intel. And this is something that people have been asking for a long time, because Intel's been saying we're going to have Optane and DIMMs. People were like, well, how is that? Is it going to follow a standard? And Intel's like, yeah, well, you'll need Xeon for that. They ain't going to do this to help anybody else, I imagine, right? So I don't know. Yeah, and it really could be a huge performance advantage for Intel down the road, because we are sort of at that point where, do you really need more cores? Do you need higher clock speed? Or if you could get like a system that's been re-architected to basically never need to be rebooted, that's basically always on, with a terabyte of RAM in it, RAM, storage, whatever you want to call it, it's going to be pretty hard to buy somebody else's parts. if it's as amazing as it turns out to possibly be. Possibly, of course.
Cool. So yeah, it sounds like it'll be quite a few years before this comes to consumer stuff. But I mean, this would be so amazing when it does, if it works as intended. Like you said, it's always in connected standby, basically, or whatever. So.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of different. The ramifications of this have not been figured out by everybody yet. So.
Yeah. Speaking of that always on, always connected thing, it will be interesting to see if this does come down to consumers, how that takes the whole initiative that, like, was it Microsoft or Qualcomm that's been pushing on the ARM side? Like, that might just obliterate that whole side of things.
Well,
yeah.
If that doesn't die on its own.
I think Windows 10S and stuff might have already obliterated that.
Right, but I mean, was it like Mark just reviewed that Nova Go, which is potentially, unfortunately named a laptop, where it's like great battery life, performance,
Yeah. No, it's not. And I've tried it as well. I have a ARM tablet. I'm still in the process of reviewing it. The performance is really weird. Really, it's weird because it's just perfectly fine, and then just like it's really just I mean, there's times when you go like, and I'll say it really does feel like a Core M class machine, right? Which honestly, most of us, for what you do every day, you don't notice. And then sometimes it'll feel like it's half of an Atom CPU. Half of an Atom
with
CPU.
1 gig of RAM.
It just gets, because you hit a lot of unoptimized code. And the thing is, the tablet I'm using is an HP tablet. It does. I'm only using it in 10S mode, so only Windows Store apps, which I sort of thought would like, oh, that means these are going to work with this ARM part, and it's like, no, like Slack from the Windows Store, it's just absolutely horrible. The experience is just like, it'll just like, why is that window just waiting to pop up, and it's just kind of like, it just like.
Slow open.
There's times when it's just bad, and sometimes it's like, oh, this is perfectly fine. And actually, it's really good, like surprisingly good to just horrible, right? I mean, I use an Atom tablet. I understand what you get out of an Atom tablet. I accept that, but this is like slower than an Atom tablet sometimes. So.
Keep saying Adam, and I think you're talking about me.
Yeah, no, it's not. But I mean, I don't know, that whole like always on thing. Do you guys even care, guys and gals? Sorry.
I love it on my PlayStation 4 when I can put it into sleep, and then it wakes right up and I'm playing a game. It's great.
Yeah.
I'm just baiting him, aren't you?
No, I don't know. To me, turning on my laptop and like, oh, I don't have to download mail. That's whoop-de-doo. I don't care. That's not a big deal to me. I think honestly, the grand scheme of things, if Optane does play out without it being screwed up, and there's a lot of things stacked up against it. You have to have OS support for it. A lot of things have to really rethink about, like this whole thing. Like, your desktop PC could have 512 gigs of memory that's always persistent.
It sounds appealing, especially if you're coming at it from a laptop perspective. My only real concern with it is that first question you brought up, like, what are the security implications? What is the troubleshooting implications of all of it?
Yeah, and I will say on the data center part, it is everything written to the DIMM is encrypted. So it's just key management, they were saying. So it's very easy to erase it all if you need to. But, you have to, the OS then has to go like, well, what do we do about this program that has a memory leak? You don't restart the program because it won't go away. And, so there's a lot of thinking, and think about how long that's going to take in the desktop. We can't even get like games that use more than 2 threads, right? So it just feels like it's going to be 10 years away, like 20.
It's cool though. It's cool that it's happening.
Yeah,
it needs a first step.
Right. I mean, this is probably what people thought, like, oh my God, really? Booting to a hard drive? I've been booting to floppies this whole time. This is going to be amazing.
It was quite a jump.
But even then, it was sort of the same thing. It was just, although it did give you a ton more storage, it was just faster, more convenient.
More convenient. I remember having to sit there and trade floppy disks constantly.
Yeah, and then it's just funny, like, you had to, like, boot up to the floppy and then switch out to the second floppy. And then it would sometimes want the operating system floppy. So you'd have to, just craziness.
Small Fluffy Rodent on Twitch says, reminds me of the Apple lie, which was instant on. Wow, I'm old.
I don't remember that one.
I don't remember either.
Instant on. Was it with the Newton?
Who knows? But we should probably move on since we have a lot of stuff to talk about in the Computex prediction and times running.
So,
but the second one is right.
A little quick headset news.
Yeah, so the big news is the HP. God, I can't remember. The MindFrame is what they're calling it. It's basically headset with active cooling. It's got Peltier coolers in both ear cups, and they cool off your ears.
Did you try it?
As I'm sitting here sweating into my beard, I like that idea a lot.
I know, right? It's just kind of like, this is like a really great idea. They had like a new laptop announcement. It's like, I don't care about that. It's like the headsets are like, so what you want to know about? Like, that's not, you're solving a problem that everybody has, which is, warm ears, right? So everybody always has to keep trying different headsets and switching out. No, and Melissa actually tried it. Says, yeah, it actually cooled off your ears. So you could turn it on and off in the control center in the software, so it's not like you're gonna like ice up your ears or anything.
Are they wired then for continual power?
Yeah, they're USB 2. So I don't imagine because Peltier coolers, it cools or heats on electric charge. The same kind of stuff is used in those pathetic little 6-pack coolers that everybody buys. That you can think, this is gonna be awesome. This thing sucks. Yeah, it's like it just cooled at like 5 degrees, right? So they don't get extreme in those cases, because you really do, it is energy inefficient. It's been used in the PC plenty of times. It's been used as CPU coolers, combination with liquid coolers, and all kinds of crazy things. It never really has caught on because there's a power cost. But the fact that they're running it over just USB 2 tells me it's probably just a fairly minimal amount of cooling. But that's just enough.
And
you can get
and you don't need to get very cool for your ear.
Yeah, you don't need that much, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I saw that, and the first thing I thought was, oh man, if that technology is capable of doing both hot and cold, it would be really neat if those headphones could do both hot and cold, because I have the opposite problem in the winter.
I thought you went like one cold, one hot.
It needs to get an API so the games can give you temperature settings in games, so you're playing like the Long Dark. The temperature keeps dropping.
That would be pretty funny.
You really...
I don't really get sweaty with like over the ear cans.
Really?
No.
That's interesting.
I mean,
I don't sweat that much.
Well, I sweat a lot, and the closed ones like these. I mean, these are pretty. I mean, they're not cheap, but they're pretty standard. Studio cans that we're all using here. But I have a pair of $700 mastering ones, and like the between the padding and the open air design, like it actually, I can wear those forever, and yeah, I don't have any problem. But I think most gaming ones are usually sealed up and have the padding and stuff. So it's just a different beast. Yeah,
I get warm with the gaming ones. I just don't really sweat like a ton where it's like, ooh, I gotta take these off.
I mean, like these are Sony. I don't know what these are, but they're like really uncomfortable at this point because I've had them on for 40 minutes now. So it starts to get just like you just want to pull them off and get some air to your ears. For me,
oh no, I haven't had that problem.
But it's the thing is, it's not everyone because, and of course everybody's different. Every person's body is different. Every headset is different. Like I run a pair of Creative headsets, and the reason why is because I can wear them for hours, and they don't really get my ears hot. These Sonys, I don't know what's up with them, but they're.
I think it's the pleather. It doesn't breathe.
Yeah.
On YouTube, Cannon Wright says he's been using headsets with 2 cans of beer attached to his ears to cool him down. So
that could work.
He's got no problem.
That's kind of my solution when I'm doing an extended gaming session. I just keep drinking beer as fast as possible.
There you go.
So kind of, offset.
Well, ears are where it helps. That's one of the main radiators of heat in your body, right? So that's where a lot of the heat comes out. Do you think this might kick off a cooling war? If this is like, oh my god, HP's onto something, then Cooler Master and everybody else we're going to come up with headsets with cooling too.
It's popular. I don't see why not.
You said they patent protected it, didn't you?
Yeah, I would imagine it would be a patent on a Peltier cooler, but doesn't mean you can't put air cooler on there. Could be just like heat sinks and like an active fan. And then heat pipes. You can have direct contact heat pipes.
Did you mention the price? What's the premium for this?
There is no price announced. Availability, I think later this year, possibly August. but no price is announced.
I mean, I think that, I mean,
less than Optane.
Like,
PC.
I don't think a lot of people dump a lot of money into their gaming headsets, even though they should.
Really? I disagree,
because
Adam.
there's stuff at the high end. I mean, Astros are 300 and people buy those.
Yeah, I mean, but there's always that joke of the Astros. You know, more people give them away than buy them. You know, like I actually don't think. Yeah, a lot of I personally have never seen a ton of people buying high-end stuff.
It's not just Astro. It's SteelSeries.
Console gamers buy them, Adam.
Well, yeah, right. Well, but I mean, look at that. What is the Cloud9 or not?
HyperX.
The HyperX Cloud?
I mean, it's a budget line and it's super popular. You know?
But that's because at the time they were one of the first to come out at that $100 price point and give you such quality.
Yeah.
But the thing is that when you go up in the price range, you're getting features you wouldn't at $100, like wireless.
Yeah.
Or better
Well,
high-end
I'm just saying.
equipment.
I'm just saying that doesn't mean people are buying them though. I think
No,
people
they are. They would stop. They would not keep manufacturing them if people weren't buying them. They might not manufacture them in as large quantity as the budget ones, but they're still selling them.
They're
still coming out with new ones.
If it kicked off, imitators, because look at like Logitech's wireless mouse pad that came out, and within months you had rivals from Razer and other companies. So when something really cool comes out, if it's successful, then the rest follows.
Yeah, I'm very interested in trying them because
I'm gonna guess.
Yeah, me too.
I'm gonna guess they're gonna fall in like the 200 range.
I don't think so.
I was looking at their prices of their other peripherals. They were also announcing a mouse and a mechanical keyboard and stuff, and those were a little bit on the pricey range. Price range what you'd normally expect from HP, I guess. So I wouldn't be surprised if the headsets cost a decent chunk of change.
Well, they had good hooks on all of them. I'll mention their keyboard and mouse too. The keyboard, big deal was they had optical mechanical switches. There have been keyboards with optical mechanical switches before, but they did use not just a bunch of cherries or other knockoffs. And then for the mouse, it had the optical switches as well, but the cable is wrapped in aluminum. And the idea they're saying is it will keep the mouse flat. So it has aluminum. It's basically wrapped in, it looks like we've seen a braided looks before, but this looks more like, I don't know, like what you might see in one of those little flexible, mouse fans. But they say it'll keep the cable flat.
The cooling headset seems like a solution to a problem that I didn't realize I needed, but an aluminum mouse cord to keep the mouse flat kind of seems like a solution in search of a problem.
Well, to keep the cable, you know how when you're playing and the cable just kind of gets crazy and gets caught and stuff. This keeps it flat. What I'm afraid of is the drag it'll create. Because
that'd make it more tense. I would think
it would it feels like it would make it harder. It would slow you down, and as we know, we're all LeBron James level of pro gamers, so that we can't have that happen. Yeah, I know. Definitely the headsets are like, wow, this is like, I can't wait for it. That's like the most exciting thing running up the Computex.
It's just one of the small things in life.
Well, Manreek is saying, what if somebody came up with a nice air-cooled mouse pad, So you get the padding on your hand, then on your head.
And then you just need a gaming chair that cools as well to complete the...
Thermaltake has one of those with a fan in it.
Oh, no shit.
The mouse pad?
So weird.
No,
a gaming chair. So it blows your farts back at you.
I was just thinking this morning, like, I wouldn't, like, if you had a chair, because, you sit in it, your butt gets sweaty and hot. If you could have it cool down, right? That's not...
Thermaltake's got you covered.
I'm just trying to think of, like, what's the longest gaming session you've ever done? I've probably done 5 hours at a time, 6 hours once.
Like 8 hours, 10.
I've done 18-hour LAN sessions before.
Oh, yeah, but you get up for that, right? Would you go for the cooled chair?
I don't like the idea of plugging my chair in.
Well, it could be wireless. It would roll around on the pad, and it would have inductive charging through the wheels
I'd be interested in that then.
Or it could just have a battery. You just swap the battery out. No.
The chair doesn't bother me so much.
Or you know what? The chair, what they could do is it could have a pole that goes up and then a bent wire. And then you just have this grid above it, and it gets power. Like a bumper car, and then your floor is electrified.
This sounds a little more dangerous.
Those bumper cars are just like, why is this thing going this direction? Right? It never actually steers correctly. It's always like, okay.
Computex.
Now I'm gonna hope that there will be more exciting news out of Computex besides HP's cooled headset.
I think that's a perfect moment to segue then.
Yes.
What predictions do we all have?
Dun dun dun.
Let's go first. Brad? Or we'll go right to left? Left to right?
Well, we were all looking at Brad first, so I guess he's on the hot
Brad.
seat.
Oh,
Sorry, Brad.
Because he doesn't have an actively cooled thermal take chair. That's why. On the hot seat.
I wrote down a whole bunch of stuff actually. I think we'll see new motherboards, high-end motherboards, Z390 from Intel and X490 from AMD. Mostly because they've been rumored and leaked for months and months now.
Oh yeah, okay. That's a tough one.
Nice.
Or what else?
I don't think we'll see a new NVIDIA graphics card announced at Computex. Because I just don't think the timing's quite right there. I think it'll be later, maybe at E3, maybe later this summer. I would love to see more news on G-Sync HDR displays, because the first one, the Acer Predator X27, is launching tomorrow. And the Asus one is launching sometime later this month. Those are the 4K, 144 hertz HDR panels. Last year, they also announced ultra-wide versions of those. And they just kind of also quietly got delayed. I would love if now that G-Sync HDR is actually shipping tomorrow, that we hear updates on where the ultra-wides are coming. Who knows? Maybe we'll see them in notebooks. That'd be cool.
Oh.
Etc.
Yeah.
Well, Rusty on YouTube is disagreeing with you. He thinks there will be a new graphics card, the all-new NVIDIA GeForce GTX 7 gig 1070.
I wouldn't put it. I would not be surprised.
And that's possible, right? And aren't there some weird like 5 gig 1060s out of China? Specifically for China that everybody got confused by. So
Stuff like that. That kind of stuff tends to happen more in the low end.
yeah.
They have to clear out all
I'm
that
hoping to hear a
stock.
lot more about G-Sync HDR.
Okay.
I'm not confident that we will, but that's a thing that aside from self-cooling headsets, that's what I'm really interested in maybe hearing about at Computex. How about y'all? I got more, but I don't want to hog it.
All right, so if we're going right to left, my guess is we're going to see an 8-core Coffee Lake part. I'm going to hope. Who knows? But I think it makes sense. And of course, we know nothing. We have not been briefed or anything, so we're not breaking any embargoes or anything. I do think the timing is right for AMD to start hyping Threadripper 2nd Gen. So I think that'll be a big deal there at Computex. And as far as GPU news, I don't know. You know, I'm sort of with you, Brad. I don't think NVIDIA will do a new graphics card. But at the same time, you just can't predict what Jensen's going to do, right? It does feel like they've been sitting on these parts forever. And it could just be like, hey, you know, once he goes out to his assistant and says, can you get me a pastrami sandwich? Okay, what do you want on there? Some mustard and all the way, let's launch 1180 at Computex. Like, what? But we're not ready. Just do it anyway. You just don't know because it's just like, damn.
I would love it. I would love to be wrong on that. And it would make a lot of sense because they are launching that G-Sync HDR monitor tomorrow. And nothing that's around today can drive that. So.
I mean, do you think it would be a thing where they would actually launch it at Computex or more of announce at Computex and then actually launch during E3, which is gaming based?
I don't think either of those are going to happen.
Right.
Really? I do think that they are driven crazy by the leaks. The leaks have been crazy. So it almost feels like there's been a campaign of disinformation because we've heard launches here.
6 different architecture names.
So they're just kind of like 6 different architecture names, 3 different launch dates. We're just going to pick a random one. In fact, the only way to keep it secret is the only person who knows is Jensen. So nobody else knows, so they can't leak anything. So only he knows. So it's just like, bam. All right, those are my.
I want to circle back to some of the chip stuff you talked about, though, because over the past 24 hours, there's been listings of the, 8086K, you know, the rumored 40th anniversary part or whatever, and that's actually on the listings at least, it says it's a 6-core part, not 8-core. That can hit 5 gigahertz.
Huh.
So I'm interested to see if that is in fact being announced at Computex, and maybe 8 cores. Maybe both. That'd be the best of both worlds.
Maybe the 8086K is the 8-core and the 8088 is the 6-core for any old school people who remember that. But all right, we'll see. Okay.
Over on Twitch, my good friend for a long time, Dimmer, says he think that NVIDIA will come out and announce that they're selling graphics cards right now at MSRP.
I mean, they're already starting to get there. The prices have actually started coming down.
They actually did that, like, what was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago? They made a big deal out of, hey, we have the shipments are in stock, and they photoshopped a picture of a shipping ship with GeForce logos all over it, and then they sold Founders Edition cards at MSRP for the 2 or 3 days that it lasted.
Wow.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I would love if they announced price cuts, but it doesn't matter if they're not selling for that price on the street.
I don't even think that comment was about price cuts, though. I think it was just about getting back to MSRP.
Yeah.
Crying inside.
Yeah. Sad state we're in.
Elena, you're up next.
I am up next, and I feel like I'm just going to be regurgitating what you all said. So mostly, I think Intel's going to announce something related to chips, right? I mean, we saw that leaked stuff from that German supplier. So we know something's coming.
I didn't know about that, which I...
No, like the one we talked about on the show like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago.
Oh, right.
Yeah, with all the motherboards and stuff, too.
Yeah. So something's coming from them. And, again, with the NVIDIA rumors, something may or may not happen, probably won't happen. The one thing I would like to see, this is not a prediction, but the one thing I would like to see is maybe some news on Ryzen 1800X successor. So maybe a 2800X. Some news about that would be really interesting, I think.
They could bust that out, too.
Yeah.
Instead of Threadripper.
They've been really quiet about it. And when they came on the show, they're a little coy about that. So it seemed like they were trying to play it as they had no definitive plans yet, but that could be because they're going to have some kind of special reveal, surprise. I don't know.
There was a thread on Reddit yesterday saying, AMD, please make, a 2800X when the 8086K comes out and call it the Black Edition. Bring back Black Edition. Have it super binned, super high performing, toe-to-toe. This morning, actually, Tech Report posted an article they had found in ASRock motherboard compatibility list and some charts. A bunch of new second-gen Ryzen chips that weren't announced yet. But 2800X was not one of them.
Were they lower?
It was
lower.
Yeah, 2300X, 2500X, and then 2 chips, 2600E and 2700E. So I wouldn't be surprised if they fluff out the line a bit more at Computex.
Yep.
They could do a 2800X though, Computex. I mean, that's a that's a good prediction.
It's not a prediction. It's a hope.
She doesn't want to.
That's what all these kind of.
She doesn't want to be wrong. That's not a prediction, but I think there will be a 2800X. I'm just hoping for it. That's a prediction.
Hoping for it is not the same as saying that I think it's going to be there. Just saying.
You know what I hope?
Technically, I wasn't wrong.
GeForce Now beta goes from closed to open or launches fully. That's what I hope.
Didn't NVIDIA do something crazy, like just make it free?
It is free. It's in closed beta. You have to apply.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then
it'll
get
never
accepted
be free. Yeah.
I'm hoping it goes open or they fully launch it.
That'd be nice.
I think open would be a better thing for most people, though, because while it's still in beta, they probably won't charge. But if they fully launch it, they'll start charging.
Yeah.
And it won't be cheap.
Yeah.
But who knows how expensive it'll be. But yeah, I mean, I want to see that progress along. I would love to see that. And Computex seems like a great place for it. So is E3, though. So
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
So the other thing on my list that I have nothing definitive for, but I'm just excited for, is seeing whatever like crazy cases or other things come out of the show. That's one of my favorite parts of the show.
I'm curious to see how much more along the same lines where RGB can go that it's not yet. Because it seems like it's everywhere. But like in the last couple of weeks, Team Group launched like an RGB SSD. And, there's been some like RGB power supplies, water-cooled power supplies. Computex is great. It's wild, man. Make an RGB water-cooled power supply.
In the spirit of bringing back things for nostalgia's sake, RGB optical drives.
Yeah, with the clear case.
They're just adding components you don't need anymore just so you could have something to RGB.
I mean, we already have sound cards, and those are still a thing.
And they're RGB.
I mean, or it could be RGB expansion cards. So you want more USB ports, you can put some LEDs on those.
RGB NVMe drives.
You can turn them blue to get USB 3.0 speeds.
It would be neat to actually have a PCIe card that's just RGB. It's like, what's on there? Just RGB. Just LEDs. Really? Yeah. Look at the entire side. Like both sides, it would just be covered with LEDs, RGB. And it just fires lights. That's all it does. Hard by the slot.
It could be like a light bright or so you can just like have it, program it so it just has like different things on it.
Yeah.
That would be completely gratuitous.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to the programmable matrix displays yet. I'm actually surprised that could be the next step.
You put that on
Remember the
card?
iBuyPower, the Snowblind, Project Snowblind? Now it's pretty awesome. They do sell it too. They took apart basically an LED monitor and put it into a case window. But, I could see, like the things you see at the deli. This is open, the scrolling thing. Would you want that in your case? Or is that just kind of like,
I think it would be hilarious.
It looks like a check cashing place at that point.
I think it'd be hilarious.
Some ASUS motherboards have that with very, very basic display outputs. They have little LEDs that say like temps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty cool.
But I mean, like a full on, like you attach it to your window and it's, it's just a grid matrix. And
make good use of that tempered glass. Or you just have a message.
Moxel says you should get a disco ball that hangs from the top fans so that it bounces all the RGBs in the case.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I could do that.
I'd go for that. That's if it's done right. You would have enough mirrors on there. And you hit it could work.
Yeah,
and you hit it with an RGB light, and the light just kind of then shoots out of your case.
RGB spotlight.
Because the problem with RGB now, it's all confined to the case. With the disco ball mounted in there and spinning and hit with a high enough intensity flashlight, or a light, it would then project those out of the case. Or you could, the next thing to do is also have those laser projectors that people have up during Christmas that, like, I'm not going to put lights up. I'm just going to spray my house with laser light. You could have that spraying out of your case. So like everything.
Oh, it goes on the top of your case. So like it just like rains it down the sides.
Oh, yeah.
So you have like a nice like pattern.
See, that could work. I could see that. I could honestly see that. Right? I mean, if the outside of the case could change to whatever you want.
I wish Razer had actually put out that projector that like extends your display beyond the displays. I think it was called Ariana.
Oh, yeah.
Where it put the picture of your games on the walls around you, but in lower resolution so that it, it felt like you were playing on a whole wall.
Yeah.
Did that never shipped?
I don't think so.
Oh.
It was a CES thing, right? Those like never shipped.
Yeah. A trial balloon.
Talk about this crazy fantastical stuff, man. There's a couple of reasons why I always get excited about trade shows, like crazy stuff like this at trade shows, just because this is where I always see crazy stuff like this. But I actually get the feeling that this particular Computex might not be super heavy in terms of core component news, unlike past years, because like second gen Ryzen's already out. Coffee Lake just came out. They just launched all the gaming H-series CPUs for laptops. If NVIDIA does announce a new graphics card, the mobile version's probably not going to land for months out. So I get the feeling that, the core actual systems themselves, we might not see much new at this Computex. So I'm hoping that gets picked up by wild and crazy stuff.
Yeah. No, I can see that. It could be. We could get skunked, right? We are expecting cool stuff. But if we do get Elena's like laser light case thing, that could be pretty good. Well, Adam, did you have any? What are your predictions?
I'll just mention real quick, KDB Cat on Twitch, great name, says, what about side panels with tiny RGBs embedded in it so you can program it to show off pixel images and messages?
Yeah. So why not?
Right?
Yeah, that's
why not? It's like Project Snowblind, man.
But just like a basic, you could have system info. But I mean, the Project Snowblind was pretty awesome, but
different. But yeah,
one of the issues is if you think of their an LED, your LCD screen, they have to then create enough light to shine through that LCD
RGB light.
And the thing is, you'd open up the side of the iBuyPower case, and it would be like, I don't know, 5,000 lumens. It was just like, it would blind you because they had to put out all that light just to make the LCD show up. So, and actually using LEDs might be better.
Enigmatastic on Twitch saying the RGB isn't HDR yet. They'll announce HDR RGB.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Are there monitors with RGB? There are, aren't there?
Yeah, there are monitors with RGB.
Monitors with RGB, right?
Yeah, but they project small things underneath. Yeah. But I don't think, you could have the back of it
just have like a strip like outlining the border.
How long is this going to last? Because I got to tell you, in PC fashion sense, it does feel like we're at the end of grunge here, and it's going to be over.
I don't think it's going to end for a while.
Not everybody can wear plaid all the time, and then one day it'll be like, what's up with the plaid, man? What do you?
Well, the thing is that prices are coming down now, so. Before, if you wanted to go with RGB, and I mean, some places it's still a premium, but like if you want to get RGB fans, they're not that much more expensive than standard fans now.
Huh, nice.
Yeah, like maybe a couple bucks, depending on the type of brand you're looking at, brand and level of model.
Nice. We do have some predictions from chat.
Yeah.
There's quite a few people that think there's going to be a 1060 Ti announced.
Okay.
So we'll see how that goes. And
not that I'm laughing at it, but I just don't think
I love Brad's expression.
Here we go again. Here we go again. And then there's people who are desperately wanting a Vega refresh. Do you think it'll come?
That's Vega only came out a year ago, and at CES they said there's going to be Vega on 7 nanometer, but it's for Radeon Instinct. It's for the data center. Mm-hmm. They specifically said that. They didn't say anything about consumer graphics cards. They just relaunched the Radeon RX 500 series as the RX 500X series for OEMs. I think between those two things, I don't expect to see new hardware from AMD in the near future, from Radeon at least.
I don't know. We'll see. People are excited for it.
Yeah, although
will be real interested to see what they do in response to NVIDIA whenever NVIDIA does possibly launch next gen GeForce chips, because because the RX 580 is still a great graphics card to use for 1080p gaming, especially if you pair it with a FreeSync monitor. Now, I'll be curious to see if those prices drop when NVIDIA stuff does launch, even if there is no new Radeon hardware.
And, I was meaning to ask you, Brad, because I saw a John Petty report that said that AMD market share for GPUs actually went up quite a bit. And looking at where NVIDIA was, I think they actually ate into NVIDIA's numbers last year. So the trend, they've been growing. They've been growing, so... And I think they're both, of course, making decent amounts of money, but I'm just kind of wondering how long can they kind of run on Vega and Polaris at this point? Or is this going to be, you think gamers are going to be like, I don't want that. That's like from 2016,
Well, fortunately, they have the new Radeon RX 500X series, which is an upgrade. AMD's been eating into NVIDIA's market share even before the mining start. Obviously, Radeon cards are better for most mining applications, so they have been eating into NVIDIA share. At this point, I hope we hear about Navi maybe sometimes this year, and it launches sometimes next year. I don't have any expectations at this point. I hope to be wrong for AMD this year, but we'll see.
And then over on Twitch, Bestiule, I always mess it up. It says, how about Intel's own discrete GPU? Do you think any word from Intel on Computex?
I think it would be early for that.
Yeah, it feels like it's too early.
I wouldn't be surprised if maybe I think the earliest they could start maybe teasing it would be the next CES in January. And even then, it wouldn't be a launch, I don't think.
I think it'd be
look, here's what we got.
Hey, look, we have something. And Ruru2 on YouTube saying, what if NVIDIA announces a price drop on G-Sync?
Like,
NVIDIA doesn't charge for G-Sync. The monitor makers pay them. I don't think that's something they would ever do.
Wait, what?
Well, I mean, if they lowered their licensing fee, then that savings hopefully would get passed on to consumers.
They still have to buy the module too, so
I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen.
AMD and NVIDIA approach it from totally different angles. Like, NVIDIA does consider it like a premium gaming experience, and they charge you more for it. And when you buy a G-Sync monitor that it's going to have, they're all going to behave the same way because they do certify it and run through everything. FreeSync this is great technology. Let's get into the hands of as many people as possible. But there are, like, some of them have low frame rate compensation if you dip below the frequency range that FreeSync handles. Some of them don't, etc. It's just two different angles, two different approaches, and I don't necessarily think one is wrong or right. But I would love if GeForce GPUs also supported FreeSync.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice, at least on the very low end. Because that's where a lot of the FreeSync monitors live, in the lower end.
Yes. But I agree 100%. I never thought about that. It'd be nice if, 1060 and below supported FreeSync, because if they're like, hey, G-Sync's is premium anyway.
I don't think that's going to happen, though.
No, but it would be nice.
Yeah, sure. It would be. That's not going to happen until the day that people go, I'm buying my GPU to drive my monitor because I bought this, $180 FreeSync panel and I want a matching variable refresh rate to go with it. But, as much as AMD has done better, they're still, 23% of all GPUs sold. So it's not enough to really matter at this point, I don't think.
Oh, I mean, for sure. But if we're just talking about wish lists and things that we think would be great for consumers.
Not a prediction, but a hopeful.
No. Not quite in even that vein, but close.
It's like persistent and pervasive. I don't know. What is it? I can't tell the difference. Okay. Well, holy smokes, are we done? Look,
we're done with the topics, but I think we might have like 4 minutes for questions.
Yeah. Well, why don't we do some questions? Everybody in the chat, this is your time to put in questions and tag me, the moderator, and we'll get those going. While those are starting to pile up, which I'm sure there are, I was going back and looking at last year's Computex, the videos we did on YouTube, and it reminded me of that Dell Inspiron 27, the first Ryzen all-in-one. Whatever happened with that?
Hey, what about those questions?
Also, you remember those M.2 drives, the Asus Hyper M.2 that you were so excited about, Gordon?
Yeah, those came out. It did actually ship, and Intel did actually reverse its policy on that.
On the pricing?
Yeah, there's no. They ended up letting board makers, basically supply the dongle that enabled the I can't remember what it was called. It set everybody off, though.
I can't remember.
As the kids say today.
Hardware DLC.
Yeah.
What?
Hardware DLC.
Yeah, hardware DLC. It was one where you had to buy a key to unlock RAID 0 or RAID 5, RAID 10
It was like
support.
$100, right?
Yeah, and they were playing with different things, and obviously it blew up in their face. But in a not funny made of pie way. So it was, they ended up going backwards, saying, yeah, sure, board makers can supply it. If you already have it, if you already have a Skylake X platform, then you could possibly buy the key from your vendor. It wasn't really, I don't think enough people really cared to make a difference, but yeah. Cool stuff.
Well, we do have some questions, but there's one last thing. Do you remember last year Intel's Tiny Compute Card?
Yes.
Whatever happened to that?
Oh, the compute card. I don't know. It may have been shelved. They may have put it in they may put it in a wooden crate and put it in the Indiana Jones.
Because that was, we got a lot of attention on that video. That was fun.
And I will
interesting
say,
little thing sparked a lot of debate.
People don't expect much, but last year NVIDIA broke out with Max-Q out of nowhere, right?
Oh, true.
So, and that was, it's still significant GPU launch. It's interesting too. Because I have talked to them, because people will cynically say Max-Q is just like, it's like the very best chips that run at a higher performance with a certain amount of voltage. And so I think I finally got an answer from them, and it was something that they've never really sort of answered before. But they're like, no, look, every single 1060 is a Max-Q, right? Every single 1060 Max-Q it's not like we pick certain ones, only the best ones. It's basically every single thing can be a Max-Q part. So
If it meets the power criteria and stuff, right?
Yeah, I don't know if there was an asterisk with that, Brad, but I think the impression I got was no, it is not true. These are just, it's a small subset of all the 1060, dies. It really is just every single one is a max Q. So, all right. What are the questions?
We got some great questions. I'm gonna switch over here. First one is from Venia on YouTube. I wonder, what do you think about Bulldozer FX series CPUs? What do you, just general thoughts?
Like reintroducing that to fight off the 8086K?
I mean, he adds, I think the architecture was a failure. So
yeah, it was Bulldozer was clearly it was a failure, as much as, I think, I've even had AMD people said, yeah, that was clearly the wrong path to take, and they have changed their path with the Zen. And yeah, it wasn't a great part. It didn't compete in any stretch of the imagination except for cost. I mean, it's a great low cost part. There's nothing wrong with it if it fits your cost budget. But when you have a 8-core CPU that is outperformed by a 2600K, then you got problems, even in multi-thread tasks.
Even through for launch of the first gen Ryzen, I think Bulldozer still had a place. Like, is a very low cost, affordable, entry level chip. But I think at this point, when you can get like that Pentium that you just built that system with the other day, or spend $100 to get the Ryzen APU that's quad core and has Vega graphics, I think these days you'd be much better off spending money on something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mean you're saying you'd rather buy the Pentium over the
because you get newer chipsets and all that too.
Yeah, it's tough. FX. It's hard to believe it's still DDR3. It's actually getting to the point where it's getting pricier to buy DDR3. I think at this point. So yeah, it was Bulldozer. Yeah, if it will not be going to the CPU Hall of Fame, right? It will not be. It'll be sitting there at the Pentium 4 at maybe the unveiling when they did, like when Zen is inducted into the CPU Hall of Fame. FX might be there because like the cousin, but it's going to be invited as a guest.
They're just going to be drinking at the bar.
That's FX's closest part to getting to the CPU Hall of Fame will be as a relative of Zen when Zen is inducted in there. But
isn't it in the most powerful console ever made?
Is it really?
Yeah, they run Jaguar cores in the.
Yeah.
Wow.
They do.
The Xbox One X.
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing's creaky. On the CPU side, creaky.
Just saying. There's certain things that go to the Hall of Fame.
I'm not going to fight
Pentium 4
you on
ain't
this
going
one.
either.
Not going to fight you on this one, Gordon. If you, that's an easy thing for you to take a swing at.
Yeah. So, oh God, FX. I'm sorry. I remember. I was running because when I was doing the original Ryzen review, we were running. I had 4 systems built up. One of them because I wanted to see how FX would run, and I was running Ashes of the Singularity. We had them all running on 30-inch panels, and so Ryzen and Core, like it's running as it was, and on the FX. On the top end, like whatever 95, not the 5 gigahertz part, the best one I had. It was just like you could see it was just chugging. It was just chugging. And it was like, what the hell? It was just terrible. So, but, what are you going to do for the money? What are you going to do?
All right, let's keep running through these. Rusty's asking any word on new Ryzen-based laptops?
I think there's a bunch of commercial ones got announced. There's something.
Yeah, they said a whole bunch are coming.
And a whole bunch are coming, so expect more Ryzen-based laptops. I'm actually interested to see how they do.
I just got an email from Acer about new desktops and laptops that have Ryzen and Vega and Polaris inside of them, including the Helios 500, that new one that they just announced.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, they're going to have a Ryzen version of that, I believe.
Nice.
Well, discrete graphics? So it'll be like it'd have to be, but I'm just trying to think of, that'll be interesting.
It would be. What I'm most curious about is that the rumors or word in the street is that the Ryzen laptops, their battery life isn't quite as good.
Yeah.
Which is why we've been seeing them in like more of that mid-tier or lower tier type machine as opposed to your high end.
Yeah, and I think in a gaming machine it might make more sense because battery life is never going to be great in a gaming laptop. So
good point. All right, Vignesh on YouTube's asking, do you guys think that Intel's rumored upcoming 8-core will be too little too late to the party, considering that AMD has closed the IPC gap?
It's all about cost. If the 8-core comes in at a reasonable price, I think it'll be a good part. If they can hit high enough clocks at the right price, it's still going to be a really good chip.
And I mean, they can clock those things like crazy too. If they can still clock the 8-core one like crazy, who knows? Because it's more cores. I mean, that could still be a really badass gaming chip.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think there's definitely a lot of public perception too, because one of the AMD has, I think, to the point where they've overcome the baggage of of their FX parts, which is just not great. So now people they sort of see Ryzen as this is not an alternative chip. And I think about it, I don't describe Ryzen as an alternative chip because that's a slight to Ryzen in a lot of ways. It's actually a good choice. If you buy a Ryzen system, it's a good choice. It's not an alternative, so it's a good choice. I do think Intel does have to. They are to the point where if they go on much longer being at that core deficit, people are going to see AMD exactly 1-to-1 with them, not just nerds. So they do have to get something out sooner.
I was just looking up my email, and yeah, the Predator Helios 500 is coming with a 2nd-gen Ryzen 2700. So it sounds like the desktop processor.
Nice.
Oh, so like what ASUS
with
did.
RX Vega and 144 hertz FreeSync display. So ASUS just sent me that this morning.
Huh. So it'll be big, beefy laptop, which honestly, who cares? You're still getting 8 cores.
Did you see that thing when they announced it last week or whatever? That's a big, beefy laptop anyway.
Oh, okay.
They announced it with the new Core i9 chip, and it's like 1.5 inches thick or something.
Chunky.
T Swift 1111111 over on Twitch is asking, can you guys talk about the X490 chipset expectations?
Brad, you're up on the chipsets?
I'm not up on that yet, so I cannot actually. I'm not sure.
Well, I can tell you it'll be 100 better.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, 100 better than Intel's Z390.
100 better.
Speaking of more motherboards and chipsets and stuff, Brandon over on YouTube is asking, will there be new X399 motherboard for Threadripper?
Yeah, I think they said they're going to end up spinning the chipset for that, so there probably will be an updated chipset for it.
There was.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
There was for the mainstream Ryzen platform, so you would totally expect that they would want to get someone buying a new high-end motherboard platform to go with the new high-end Threadripper parts.
Do you think consumers are really caught up on the numbering thing? Like it almost feels like some of the AMD chipsets, they just simply did higher number to make people like, oh, well, is Z270 better? Oh, we got Z370. It's 100 better, right? And is that working on consumers? Do people actually go like it's 100 better and I'm going to buy it over buying somebody else's?
If so, and they did do their research first, they'd be mad because it's not compatible with their chip. I don't know. I've seen some people say it might be because Ryzen was coming back for the first time in so long, so they were trying to say, hey, X370 is comparable to the similarly named Intel chipset, to just draw a comparison lens. But it's just way too convoluted, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's a mess.
All right.
And that's the reason I didn't want to speculate on X490, because while I have read it, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head. And when you come to chipsets, it's all about the specifications, and I don't want to just start guessing those, pulling those out of my hat.
A couple more, and then we have to really wrap it up here. Tiger Bait is asking, will the Dell XPS 27 be refreshed? It debuted last year.
Are we talking about the all-in-one?
Yes.
Don't know. That's a question I have, actually, because I know I put off the question, but I really would like to do a review of it, but I've been kind of holding off because I wasn't sure they're going to refresh it with new parts or not. So that's something I'm trying to find out. And the reason why I didn't actually get to put up the review last fall was because I had so many problems with my first unit, which I don't really think was indicative of the actual unit. It's just sometimes you get a bad unit, it happens. But with all the timing in the fall and all the other stuff I had on my plate, it just didn't end up working out.
Along those same lines, Spectre on YouTube's asking, would the Intel Hades Canyon or Hades Nook still be interesting if it drops the AMD GPU?
I'm not really sure.
Like add it with the what is it, Kaby Lake G or?
It has Kaby Lake G in there, but I'm not really sure what the question is driving at.
Saying like, would we give a damn if it wasn't Kaby Lake G? Maybe.
Well, I mean, the whole point of that particular
I forgot it was Kaby Lake G.
Like set of NUCs is that they have those like interesting parts, right? So, I mean, I guess the answer is no, we wouldn't be as interested, but then at the same time, it wouldn't be Hades Canyon.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't care if it were Iris Plus. Really?
I mean, it was interesting. Skull Canyon was interesting because that was the first time we'd seen integrated graphics do something like that. But in this environment, no, it wouldn't be interesting anymore.
Would we be excited if it were a H part, so 6-core with a 1050 inside? That's probably way too much.
I mean, at that point,
yeah, obviously.
But at that point, it's not different than say something that Zotac's putting out.
Yeah.
Unless they manage to keep that form factor, then that would be interesting.
That is bringing back a Computex point. I'm gonna wonder, are we gonna see more there's only it's insane, but there are 3 Kaby Lake systems in the world right now. Dell, HP, we've seen 2 of them, and there's I think Chewy has one, right?
Oh, do they?
Yeah, it's a mini PC. It's not a laptop.
Oh yeah, they did. They messaged me about that, but we have that policy where we don't review things from Kickstarter. I think that was a Kickstarter
really
thing. Yeah.
Just like,
whoops.
Wow, that's just crazy. That's just like. That is just no traction for Kaby Lake G. As much as it's a fantastic chip, it's a pretty amazing thing. But
everybody in the chat's loving it.
What is up with the no Kaby Lake G's? You wonder, is there some kind of grand, fast,
Do you think
green
we'll see more
conspiracy?
Computex or no?
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I wish there would be some more because it's a really interesting part.
I wonder if that whole, shared package dynamic tuning thing is what's making it hard for, vendors to adopt it.
I don't know. I mean, the interesting thing would be to see a gaming laptop with the 100-watt part in there.
Yeah, we haven't seen that yet. It's all the 65-watt part, isn't it?
Yeah, it's only been 65 watts, and you're getting up way closer to max Q, 1060 performance.
Yeah. But the thing is that if you go with the 100-watt part, the form factor you would be in at that point maybe is the reason why it's not worth it. It's just better to go with like true discrete at that point.
And you give up 6 cores, so you're looking at Coffee Lake H versus your Kaby Lake G part. So that's a tough thing. That's a tough thing to give up 2 more cores. But I don't know. Maybe we'll see it. Hopefully we'll see, right?
Yep.
That's just crazy.
I think we have to go.
Question?
Actually,
we're done.
Yes. Well, one more.
Okay.
Cyberclue. Stick with me here. MX4 versus GELID GC Extreme for cooling GPU when reapplying thermal paste, or what's your go-to thermal paste? I'm curious about this one. What do you think about thermal paste?
Anybody got their thermal paste preferences? Aquanaut seems to get a lot of love. Liquid thermal's been around for a long time, so awesome stuff. But
I'm not too picky. I know Steve over at Gamers Nexus has tested a bunch, and he really likes Thermal Grizzly. So,
I gotta say though, I mean, for most people, it's not gonna matter, right? I mean, for your average person, it just doesn't.
I just have like 4 or 5 different little tubes of ones that I've got with different coolers laying around, and I use whatever's at hand. And
yeah. If you're gonna delid and do all that stuff, then definitely.
Yeah. Do your research, which I don't know anything. I have not deleted anything.
Same.
Yeah, I like my warranties.
There you go. Perfect.
All right, we're going to take us out because we got to go to a meeting. Check back I will be in Computex, though. Check back hopefully next week. We're going to see if I can stream from Computex.
Yeah.
For your fix of PC talk on the Full Nerd for audio listeners, subscribe to us on iTunes and also leave us a review, a positive review or a negative review saying you don't like the shirt I'm wearing because you're a Cavs fan. Also, listen to us on Google Play or Stitcher. Send questions and comments to thefullnerd@PCWorld.com. Thanks for coming. I'm Gordon Ung with Brad Charkis.
Adios.
Elaine Yee.
Bye, everyone.
Adam Patrick Murray's going to hit the off switch.
Stay tuned to PC World for Computex next week. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And E3 after that.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. I'll be
all
there.
the things.
Yes. Bye.
All right. See, we're not.